I'm trying to get the amount of items that I own, everything that I own, down to an extremely minimal amount. I've already considered myself an extreme minimalist in the past, and our home was quite extremely minimal. However, I'm wanting to step it up a notch. Last week you saw me go around the living room, which I think it already had about 20 items, but we got it down even further. We're going to do the same to the bedroom today, but there's going to be a little bit of a twist, because perhaps the things I got rid of last week were largely smaller things that could easily be gifted. But in today's video as well, at the end, I'm also going to discuss some of the larger items that I was unsure about at the end of last week. We're going to even improve on last week a little bit in some areas as well. But the bedroom. We're in the bedroom now. The bedroom's a tricky one. It's had a couple of changes in recent weeks because I used to always sleep, you know, on a mattress on the ground, but that is one area that my partner has said, no, I would like a bed. So we do have a bed here now. However, we did used to have a bamboo rail in the corner. That has sold since last week, but we've still got a desk and a couple of other things that we are getting ready to sell. So throughout this video I will actually be moving them so we get a true idea of what the room will look like once they've sold. Also, what I wanted to point out is that a few people mentioned last week, why am I doing this so soon? And the truth is, it's because we haven't got a timeline of when we could go away travelling. It could be sooner than 9 months. So I would like to know that at the point that we decide there is a lull, we could go do some initial, you know, reconnaissance mission, you know, travelling, and we could even sublet this apartment. I want the apartment to be ready to do that so that then we're not waiting on something else. To me, it just makes sense, you know. Is it the 5 P's? Planning, preparation, blah, blah, blah. So I want to do that now. I also know from when we moved from our first apartment, right at the beginning of my channel, when you have some really big or more expensive items that you want to sell, it can take a longer time. It does in this area anyway. Anyway, let's get started with the room. We're going to go around left and right, but I'll show you a pan first so you get to see what you're looking at, and I will also discuss the things in the background. So this is the room as you walk in. I'm just giving you a general pan of the room now so that you know what it is all going to look like once we get in the room. So all that stuff in the corner is going to be decluttered, and we'll discuss why, and you'll probably recognise a couple of the things from last week, but we'll discuss that in a second. That's the room. So I'm sure that most of you could probably agree that that is pretty minimal. Like we did last week, we'll just have a general count up so that we know how many rough approximate items we're counting at, because sometimes as a visual aid it's interesting to know, even if you're not that bothered about the amount of items. So 1, 2, I'm not obviously going to count anything that is my personal items. 3, 4, 5, 6, not counting the stuff I'm selling because I know that that's going. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there are 16 items currently in this room. I've counted the bed as a whole item, so I'm counting things that really are visual points of interest, in, you know, that really jut out when you're looking around a room. And if you remember from last week, what I said also was that I'm an extreme minimalist who also likes to keep things looking a little bit aesthetic and seeing how it's still achievable with very few items. So the first port of call would be my Buddha. Now, my Buddha does room from room to room, and he has no real fixed abode, because sometimes we will light the non-paraffin tea light candle, we'll take it through to the living room, and sometimes we have it in here. Now, at some point I may very well declutter him, but as I discussed last week, I think that it's something quite good to have in the backgrounds of my videos. Now, the next thing we have, this shelf now is actually super for quite a few multifunctional things. I can use it as a dressing table, to do my hair. I even use this top shelf to fold my clothes up on an evening if I'm wanting to just sort of put them down and re-wear them the next day. That is now my laptop camera charging shelf, and it's great because it's so close to the plug, and because this property is 200 years old, plug outlets are in a short supply because it was built before electricity was invented, so they've had to come back at a later date and install them, so they're very, very limited, which also limits where I can put things in the room and how we can have it. These two tubs, all my clothes are in this one, some of my partners are in there. And another interesting point, we actually use the door as an unofficial coat hanger, because if you're new to this channel, what I have often said is this apartment, it has no inbuilt storage, which means that we definitely have to make the best use of space, and if we don't want lots of visual clutter, being able to store things behind things, that's what happens with this door. We use this door to keep our bags on, jackets, scarves, any extra thing that is clothing related, accessory related, that does not fit in our tubs, fits on the back of that door, because it's the only way of sort of keeping the visual clutter to a minimum. Because the access to our apartment is very limited and the staircase is very narrow, so we can't get large items of furniture up here. So now let's look at the eyesore in the corner that you're probably all wondering about. After last week, are we okay there for the lighting? Let's have a look at it. Okay. Yeah. If you guys feel like you're swinging, that is the floors that are uneven, and then as I stand on the floorboard, it moves it. That's how old the apartment is. Since last week, I obviously needed somewhere to store some of the stuff in last week's getting rid of video until it sells. So some of the stuff is under there that you will recognise, but another half of it is new stuff that you haven't seen that I want to declutter. I decided that I actually want to declutter the little table and all of those plants. Now, for those of you who are worried about my plants, please don't worry. I've still got one monstera, one snake plant and one pothos. And the reason obviously I'm getting rid of my plants is I will have to eventually, but I actually think that some of these plants are a little bit sad because it is actually quite a humid apartment, and although some plants are supposed to enjoy humidity, I had a peace lily which is actually supposed to enjoy humidity, you know, like it, but it ended up dying, so it must have even been too much humidity for the peace lily. So these are all going. So that we get the true experience of what this room is going to look like in a couple of weeks when these things have sold, I'm going to move them now. So I'm going to move you guys back, move all this stuff out, speed it up, and then we'll get the true picture of what this room will look like without that stuff. And then we'll discuss the other corner, which is perhaps going to be the biggest change. Voila! Mixed in with that stuff, you probably saw a couple of other little things. They are things that throughout the week I've just been going through the odd little piece in our kitchen and thinking, I don't need that, I don't need that. I even swapped our beige curtains for the green curtains in terms of what I was decluttering from last week, because we had a green pair in here behind the linen curtains to make them a little bit darker, but I decided I would rather have the beige ones behind them. Whew, I'm out of breath now after that. So while I'm on the subject of the curtains, what I also wanted to say is I had many people ask why we sort of bother with curtains as minimalists, and it's because in England it is cold. And more to the point, in England, in a very old property, the windows are old, they are not double glazed, they are not well insulated, and if you have curtains rather than a blind, and more to the point, if you have long curtains, They will slightly go over the edge and the perimeter of the window, which prevents drafts and, you know, keeps better room insulation, keeps you heating, cuts down on heating bills. If I perhaps was still in England but lived in a more modern home, it wouldn't be necessary because it would be double glazed, it would have better heat insulation and energy efficiency, but this one doesn't. I also don't even want to spend any more money now changing certain blinds around, even if that wasn't the case, as obviously all my money is going into our future plans of travelling. That corner is looking more minimal. For now, I'm not getting rid of the rug because I like to do things in increments so that I don't regret it later. So I would rather get used to not having that stuff in that corner for a while before I rush into getting rid of the rug, because like I said, I'm still trying to keep it the tiniest bit aesthetic, cosy, if cosy and extreme minimalism can go together. I am definitely more of a warm extreme minimalist than a sterile minimalist. So for now we're keeping that rug. Let's carry on going around the room. So this corner of the room, let's take a look at it. This is obviously our bed. A lot of you who aren't new here will know that for a long time we slept just on a mattress on the floor, but my partner decided that he would definitely like to have a bed, and as a result of that he has 2 drawers in the end of this bed that he keeps the rest of his clothes on. But the thing about having the bed means that we sort of have to have these bedside tables, and the reason being, I have tried lots of different scenarios with this bed. We've had it in the other corner, we've had it over there, we've had it in front of the window. Trust me, it's my room, I know. We've tried it lots of different ways, and I don't think room organisation and room layout is something that somebody else can really tell somebody else how to do, because at the end of the day, even with all the experience in the world, you know, even my mum, who is an interior designer, she wouldn't dream of coming into my room and telling me where to put things. It is an experience that you only really know for yourself by living in it and knowing what works best for you, and in this case me and my partner. We also have a projector, the little mini one that we keep down by the side of the bed. A lot of you saw that in the evening routine, and that wall is the best wall to throw the projector onto, so it will sit on the end of the bed and throw to that wall. All the other walls are very, very awkward, very small, because it is like a jigsaw puzzle, the shape of this room. And very, very annoyingly, we have our heating system in this inbuilt cupboard in the corner, which make things even more tricky. We've actually got only, I think it's a gap of about 9 inches by the side of the bed. We can't even easily put our cup down by the side and be getting down to our cup when we're drinking a cup of tea, because we do drink a lot of tea in bed. So we discovered that these C tables are the best option because they will pull out and pull over. Like this. So you can have it over the bed. And the great thing about that is, like I discussed in last week's video, it makes it a multifunctional item. That is so light that it's quite easy, if we really wanted to pick that up, take it in the other room and even use it as a little desk over the sofa. It has a lot of options. It's a true multifunctional item. So this is how we currently like it. The bed, I can't see us moving it anywhere else, because when we've tried other areas in the room over the past year, it hasn't worked. As a result of having the bed here, we kind of have to have these side tables for our lifestyle. We've tried even mounting sort of side tables on the wall, but again, it doesn't really work. It seems to sort of look a mess, and we can't even do that on that side because occasionally the boiler energy efficiency man has to come and be able to get into that. And if there was something on the wall, it makes it very difficult for him to open. So the only thing that can really be discussed in this room is perhaps what I keep on the side table and what is on the wall. Now I like to have my amethyst paraffin free candle next to the bed. I like it, it's a little piece of nature. I think having natural things in your home, especially if I'm getting rid of so many plants, really bring life into the home. And remember, that's what I'm trying to achieve, albeit whilst being an extreme minimalist. So I like having natural things around my home like that. The other thing is just a dish with my AirPods in and my earbuds, because the seagulls are very noisy. Now admittedly, I could just have them out on the table, but I feel that they would look messier, not in a container. But this is something that I might change in the future. I could try to put them away somewhere else, I don't know, in a little bag in the top of my clothes tub, I'm not sure. Now let's talk about the other thing in the room. Until recently, I had 2 pillows on my bed, and we even had 2 little cushions. I got rid of the little cushions, but we are keeping 1 lumbar cushion, because like I said, that means that we can take it through to the living room whenever we want, and it is a cushion to sort of get comfy with in the living room. What I also like about it is it creates this little bit of aesthetic with just 1 item. And then what it also does, because we've recently got rid of a pillow each, so 2 pillows, so we now only have 1 pillow each. But if we feel like that isn't quite high enough for us, this can double up as another pillow, and it won't get dirty because we're not putting our head straight onto it, and it just helps keep the pillows up that little bit more, so your neck is that little bit higher. And believe it or not, but these pillows are actually the thickest we could find. I think they're like 12 centimetres, very, very thick, but we like a very, very thick high pillow. So all that is all accounted for. So what is left? This little corner. Gosh guys, can you see that, how uneven that is? That's the floor. You can't maybe tell as badly on camera, but the top of the camera is now at about a 30-degree angle of not being straight. Anyway, this is the area that I'm really most considering, because I personally think I've got everything else as minimal as I would be comfortable that still keeps an aesthetic in the room. I'm not sure I really need these things, and they're just what my eye is really drawn to when I look around the room. So let's just pop this up a bit. Now the lighting is quite strange in this room, so hopefully you can all manage with that. Let's try and pop that up a bit more. That lighting is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Where can we go? Right, I think that's the only lighting that we can get, because it's, and the second I go away from the window, it's just really, really dark. Which is another reason that we have the curtains in here though as well, is we are again even overlooked at this side, so I definitely need the curtains for privacy. Now I will have to fill these holes. I am by no means decluttering the value of these photographs, but what I am doing for practical reasons is getting rid of the frames. I can't take the frames with me travelling, they're big and bulky. I don't really want to put anything in storage when we go, and if we sublet this apartment I definitely can't leave photographs out, because strangers who live here will not want to look at strangers they don't know in the apartment. Today I am going to be decluttering the frames of these photographs. We haven't had a very big declutter pile today, but perhaps that is because there wasn't much extra in the bedroom. Now, anybody who doesn't already know, this is the device. Somebody in the hallway. This is the device that controls this heating system. I'm obviously at some point in the next couple of days going to have to take these pins out, fill these holes, paint this, sand it, etc. blah blah blah. I don't want anything out that really is extra or that I'll have to get rid of at a later date. I'm gifting this to my mum. It is my grandma's, and I know that she was given it as a prize when she was younger. It's about 50 years old, a little dove. I have a little affinity with birds. Anybody who watches my Instagram will know that I have many bird friends in the area that I like to talk to and that come and visit me on my windowsill. And I even have a raven that follows me around when I walk around town called Rupert. So obviously he's not mine, I don't own him. We don't own animals, he just follows me around, so I've named him. That is going to just be gifted to my mum. So then guys, I'm left with this shelf. I could just stand the lavender on it. I'm a little bit unsure. And that brings me to the next thing that I was going to mention in today's video. I have a new method for decluttering things that could help us declutter more with the last couple of things that we really don't know about and we don't want to regret decluttering later. Now, I'm not going to get into that fully in this video because I think that'll be better for the next video, perhaps that we'll do in the hallway in the kitchen. But what I am going to do here is, because that looks so weird and visually odd now, with there just like being nothing on it, nothing really to put there, I think I'm just going to unscrew it. Watch it not want to come out now. Right, so I'm going to need to borrow my partner's pliers to actually get that screw out of there. But visually you can see what it looks like a little bit without that shelf. Now, I feel like that's looking a lot cleaner. I definitely want to keep my lamp. That's something that I really value. It makes it look lovely. It has this lovely warm glow on an evening. But this thing really does annoy me. One thing that I have toyed with the idea of is actually putting the shelf under there and then perhaps just, I don't know, standing the lavender in front of it to hide it, but then I feel like it sort of even brings more attention to it. What I might do is get some kind of little white box that I can just put over it so that this big green flap of material isn't over it. But I definitely feel like that is smaller, like less visually annoying, cleaner and clearer. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move, although it's been not that much this week, I'm going to move these very few items out of the way so we can have a look again at the room. Right guys, so as you can see on there, the battery just went dead. Both of them have been exhausted. So both batteries are out and we're on the iPhone. This is currently what the room is looking like. And I can't remember whether I mentioned at the beginning, but I can also use that as a standing desk when I lift my laptop out and put it on there. These shelves are my mum's. We're storing them for her, but we thought it was a great way of fully utilising something that we are keeping in our very small property, i.e. keeping for somebody else. Deciding on the rug, I quite like it because it just sort of adds a little bit of aesthetic to the room. I may change my mind at a later date. I'm sure many of you who've been here for a while know what I'm like, but I think it's good sometimes to do things in increments so we get used to, you know, little changes at a time. It definitely helps us not regret getting rid of things, I think, if we do it in increments slowly. And then over here we have the bed and the side tables. Now, I did have this lamp on the side table before, but that makes it harder to just pull that out and use it multifunctionally when you want to. So I like that it's just sort of round that corner. Maybe I could put it higher to make it more balanced, but then the wire being up the cupboard would annoy me. I'm definitely going to get a white box though to cover that thing up, because then it will all just merge in really nicely. So that is everything in our room, and we're down to nothing extra really. It is really just a bedroom now with our little bit of clothing storage. So let me show you what I was going to show you at the beginning of this video. So, slight little update since last week. I'm thinking of selling the mirror. Now, I wouldn't completely get rid of a mirror in this area because our home is actually quite dark, especially in winter. I would perhaps replace it with a smaller mirror, a mirror of lower value, and a mirror that I'm not worried about having broken if we decide to sublet this apartment, because people get up to some crazy things in other people's homes. This is probably being sold, and also somebody mentioned, why bother keeping this potos when it's only got a couple of leaves in it? And that's why, really. I'm sort of keeping it to see if it can survive, and if it can survive at the time that we go to leave. What is that noise? There's a very weird noise outside. What is that? Guys, sorry, that noise really freaked me out. Things like that happen all the time in this really old building. Anyway. Yeah, I'm going to wait to see whether it survives, and if it survives I will gift it away to a friend, but for now I may as well keep it. I am also contemplating towards the very end of the time here selling the glass table for the same reason. Glass mirrors, highly breakable, but for now I am keeping them. The mirror itself may go a lot sooner than the glass table. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, since last week I did decide to get rid of the book on the bookshelf. So even the projector area looks a tiny little bit more minimal. Let me show you. So guys, I hope that you've all enjoyed this video today. There wasn't quite as much to get rid of in this week's video as last week's, but we're still adding to the extreme minimalisation of the whole apartment. And in the next video we're going to visit the kitchen, which I believe is a much harder area, perhaps combined with the hallway, because the hallway is a really small area, and we're also going to talk about this new declutter method that I've discussed. So I hope you all liked watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!